The Indianapolis Colts have completely flown under the radar this offseason, and I'm not really too sure why. They brought back all their vital pieces to their team, and they brought in a handful of very good players to improve their already good roster, and I think that the Colts could have a very good season in 2022. Welcome to the channel. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video if you guys do enjoy it. We hit 3K a couple days ago, so I want to thank you guys for that. With all that being said, let's hop into the video about the Indianapolis Colts and their offseason. The Colts started the 2021 NFL season at 1-4, and many people believe that their season was over after the huge hole they fell into early in the season. With a new quarterback inserted into the starting lineup and a pretty tough schedule early on, the Colts struggled early, but once Carson Wentz got comfortable in the offense and Jonathan Taylor began his rampage across the NFL, the Colts became one of the toughest teams to beat in the league. They rattled off a few win streaks, and they were in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. They were 9-6 heading into Week 17 with 2 games left against the Raiders and the Jaguars, and the Raiders was a very overall pick. But to everybody's surprise, the Colts laid an egg against the Jaguars and lost 26-11 on the season finale. All they had to do was win that game. They were going to be in the playoffs for the second year in a row, but the team just did not show up, and Carson Wentz was a big reason for that. Wentz only completed 58% of his passes in the game for 185 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and took 6 sacks for a total QBR of 4.3 in the game. The Colts' loss against the Jaguars marked 7 straight losses for the Colts in Jacksonville, which is just pretty remarkable. The Jaguars have been one of the laughing stocks of the NFL for the longest time, and the fact that the Colts have had trouble winning there for about a decade now is pretty crazy to me. But nonetheless, the Colts finished the season 9-8, blowing the last 2 games of their season and did not qualify for the playoffs. And they went into the offseason wanting to make a lot of changes with the roster, especially at the quarterback position. Pretty early in the offseason, the Colts unloaded Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders for 3rd-round picks in 2022 and 2023, and the 2023 3rd-rounder can become a 2nd-round pick if Wentz plays 70% of Washington snaps. And the teams also swapped 2nd-round picks in 2022, with the Colts moving up from 47 overall to number 42. The Commanders are getting a 2022 7th-round pick. After the season was over, there was many reports that Wentz's relationship with the coaching staff and the organization of the Colts got pretty toxic, and that was a big reason why he ended up getting traded. After the Jaguars game, Jim Irsay was so disgusted with the performance of Wentz and the Colts that he said trading for Wentz was a mistake and that it became very obvious the team needed to move on from the quarterback after missing the postseason. After Wentz was traded, there was some uncertainty who was going to be the Colts' next quarterback because there wasn't a ton of great options in free agency. But with the Falcons moving towards a rebuild and Matt Ryan getting a little up there in age, the Falcons decided they were ready to move on from Matt Ryan, and the Colts got on the phone and exchanged a 3rd-round draft pick for the quarterback, and they got their new starter for the upcoming season. I definitely think Matt Ryan still has some left in the tank. Atlanta definitely hasn't been a very good team the last few years, and despite that, Matt Ryan has still put up pretty decent numbers, and I think with a better situation in Indianapolis, he's just going to be asked to run the system, not do too much, and I think he's going to be able to succeed with that. Frank Wright has a very good quarterback system, and he also has a good supporting cast, so I do think Matt Ryan will be productive in Indianapolis, and he will show up in big games, unlike what Carson Wentz was able to do for the Colts last season. But the Colts were not done making moves by any stretch of the imagination. They went out and made a big splash for their defensive side of the ball when they traded Rock Ya-Sin straight up to the Las Vegas Raiders pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue. Colts fans at the time were a little bit concerned with the move because they were already pretty thin at the cornerback position, but the Colts had a plan and they went out and also signed Stephon Gilmore to a 2-year, $23 million deal with $14 million guaranteed. And there was 2 huge additions to their defense, getting a good pass rusher and still a very good cornerback in Gilmore. And then in the draft, the Colts did very well with the picks that they had. They did not have a 1st-round selection because they traded that for Carson Wentz last year. But with their first pick in the draft, they drafted Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati to help out Matt Ryan and give him some more weapons outside. And then in the 3rd round, they brought in some more depth for the offensive line, bring in Bernard Raymond. And with their 2nd, 3rd-round pick, they also brought in Jelani Woods, who many saw having a huge upside at the tight end position. I'll be really interested to see his development with the Colts and their offense. I think he can be a very good player. And then with their final premium pick, they brought in Nick Cross, a safety out of Maryland, and he's going to start right away for the Colts. So I really like the value that the Colts got with their picks in the draft. Nick Cross will now team up with Rodney McLeod, who the Colts also signed in free agency, a veteran safety. So they have a completely new safety tandem. They brought in a new starting cornerback in Stephon Gilmore, and they shore up a pass rush that has been kind of spotty here and there. It's really been DeForest Buckner and not really anybody else. Woody Pay, they drafted last year. He had some moments as a rookie, but he needs to be a little bit more consistent, and I think a year or two jump for him is possible. And you also combine Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore, who both made the Pro Bowl last year, and the Colts have multiple stars on their defense, and they're bringing in more solid veterans this offseason. They're definitely going to take a jump up and continue to excel as one of the best defenses in the league. And on the offensive side of the ball, we can't forget about one of the best running backs in the entire league. Jonathan Taylor had 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground, with 40 catches, 360 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the air, and had one of the best seasons for a running back we've seen in recent memory. And for the wide receiver room, you still have Michael Pittman Jr., the newly drafted Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, who they drafted a few years back in the second round. And the Colts also brought back Mo Alley Cox, combined him with Jelani Woods, their newly drafted tight end. And the Colts have a very versatile set of weapons across their entire offense. And their last component of that side of the ball is their offensive line, which was ranked number 12 according to Pro Football Focus last year. Quentin Nelson is one of the best offensive linemen in the entire league, and he's going to make any unit better regardless of who's around him. The Colts are returning Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith, but for left tackle and right guard, they have 2 new starters who will be filling in full time this year, Matt Proyer and Danny Penter. We'll see how they gel together, but I think the offensive line is going to be just fine. Quentin Nelson solely by himself makes that one of the best run blocking units in the league. And if they can be a little bit more solid in pass protection and give Matt Ryan some time to throw to these weapons, I think that they could have a very scary offense in 2022. With the Texans and Jaguars still rebuilding, having very young rosters and a completely new coaching staff, I don't expect either of those teams to be a real threat for the Colts in 2022. The Titans definitely got worse this offseason, getting rid of AJ Brown. They also cut Julio Jones and Janoris Jenkins. And I know Julio hasn't really been the same the last couple of years, but when he was on the field for the Titans, he was the wide receiver 2. Now the Titans are going to be relying on a rookie, Treylon Burks, to take over wide receiver 1, and Robert Woods to be their second wide receiver, who's coming off an ACL injury. I think it's a little bit unfair to expect those 2 players to match the production of Julio and AJ Brown from last year. And their offensive line also got weaker because their best lineman from a year ago, Roger Saffold, signed with the Buffalo Bills in free agency. So the Titans are really missing a lot of key components to their offense, and Janoris Jenkins to their defense. And the Titans still have Mike Vrabel, who I have a very high opinion of, and I think they still have solid talent on their roster. Derrick Henry will be back to full strength, and we'll see if he can continue where he left off before getting injured last year. But I do believe the Colts have a better roster than the Titans, and it's really going to come down to quarterback play, and if Matt Ryan can be a little bit more consistent and solid than Carson Wentz was last year, and I believe that he will. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. Let me know what you think of the Colts and if they're going to win the AFC South, or if you think another team from that division is going to win it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.